Hello, and welcome to The Green Team, the weird little spin-off podcast where patrons of the Legendarium talk about books and topics the main crew hasn't gotten around to yet. I'm Little Red Book, and I have with me our newlywed, Jeff.
Do I really count as newlywed when it's been 3.5, 4 months by the
Yeah.
time this comes out?
No, you count for sure.
We'll count it. We'll allow it.
And our lovable troll, Soulution.
Hello, and I'm not a troll.
Today we're discussing Spirited Away, the Studio Ghibli film from 2001. Before we get all spoilery, how would you rate this movie out of 5 stars?
Yeah, it's a hot take. I'm actually gonna go 4 out of 5
Okay.
stars.
No?
Yeah.
Hot take. That's fine. What about you, Jeff?
The funny thing is that without putting the hot take language in there, I think I'm leaning toward the same. Possibly a 4.5. But as I show up on more of these, one of the things that will get discovered is that I am very stingy with perfect ratings about anything. So that's the thing you have to take into account.
Right. No, and I mean, we reviewed a book that I loved and I gave it 2.5, so I'm there with you. I would say 4.5 is where I'd put it. I think it's a really well executed movie. It's beautiful. Yeah, so I would say 4.5. There's issues with it, of course, like anything. What did you love most about this movie?
Okay, I made Soul start the last one, so let me go. Probably the thing that I love most is that in some ways it just acknowledges for every single main character that growing up is hard.
I think for me, the soundtrack is phenomenal. I listen to that probably at least once every couple weeks, whether it's specifically just Spirit Away or a bunch of the other films by the studio. And then the other thing is the color palette, which is just another thing in these sequences of films that just really resonate. It's really nice and wholesome. It's probably my favorite things.
I think what I love most about this movie is that it's infinitely rewatchable, but it was something I could sit down and watch with my children when they were very little, and it was just the right amount of scary. Like, there's some really scary things that happen in this movie. But it was just the right amount of scary. And I used it on several occasions when things were difficult in my life to talk about, in our lives as a family, to talk about difficulty and facing challenges with the kids and me and the whole situation. And I like stories like that. Also, it's a fairy tale, and I love fairy tales. Would you do what the parents did when they entered we're not going to ask the Portal Fantasy question, that it is. We all agree.
No, it is.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we don't even need to get into it because, well, yeah, we're all on the same side.
This isn't Harry Potter. Would you eat food like the parents did? This is Soul's question. And I would say, I would like to think I would not do what the parents did when they walk into and
What?
guys, this
Okay.
is not spoilers because it's
Hold
at
on
the very
now.
beginning of the movie.
Yeah, this is not spoilers. This is what I think because I rewatched a little bit of it before I went to work this morning, and I think it's like 7 minutes into a 2-hour film. Okay.
Yeah.
Hear me out. You're driving in a car, long road trip, you're moving, you're hungry, You get to an abandoned amusement park that's just like super magical, it's like a ghost town, and there's a bunch of food. Like, why would you not eat some of the food? Because I know I definitely would have been right there with him, like, yeah, Dad, let's have some food. But then there would be no story because everybody would be pigs.
The reason I think I wouldn't have, at least right out of the gate, is the fact that it was abandoned, and with it having very obviously been a place where one was expected to pay, that there would have been the thing of, okay, can I find a person to actually be able to purchase some of it yet first? But there's also, if the right thing happened to be out and I was hungry enough, then
What would it take, Jeff? Would it be a funnel cake? Would it be like a T-bone steak? What are we talking here? Ice cream?
See, that's one of the interesting questions, because what the right thing might be, it's not a single right thing. in that there's one thing that would absolutely be it, but more of a, if whatever was out was just the thing that looked like what I was in the mood for.
You're a mood eater. Okay. I
So
gotcha.
if it was McDonald's French fries sitting next to a Wendy's Frosty, I would probably just eat it.
Okay.
Not a bad 1-2
Because
combination.
See, I think I won you
you dip
both
the
over.
fries into the
You did.
Frosty.
Yeah.
So good. If you have not done this, dip French fries into Frosties. It's amazing.
Yes, we've done it. Except get Checkers fries because they're the real best fries. Okay.
Well, I don't have
none of this
Checkers.
Wendy stuff.
And that's why I use McDonald's fries, because we don't have whatever you're talking about, but Wendy's fries are only so. Okay, so what do you think the overall theme of this movie is? And Jeff has actually already answered this question, what he
Yeah.
thought the theme was. So how about you, Soul?
Oh, looks like I scrolled past this question. So what do I think the overall theme is? We're gonna go with, I feel like Chihiro is on a journey, and that is just a journey of just saving her parents. It feels like a standard journey. As a kid, you watch this because I haven't seen this really for a little while. I feel like it's just about the journey of life.
Jeff,
We
did
see-
you want to add
Friendship.
anything to it?
Yeah, well, the piece I was going to add is we see it through her eyes, but almost everybody who has a moderately prominent role does some of that growing up.
And I think one of the things that it touches on, it is growing up as far as I'm concerned, but the fact that you learn that your parents are flawed and what that does to your relationship with your parents and also your relationship to the world. Because her parents are almost, I mean, when you're little, your parents are almost like God. I mean, or godlike. Not to get heretical. Please don't burn me at the stake. But you have a moment when you learn your parents are flawed people. And that changes things for you. And it's a big part of growing up. That's my thought anyway. I don't know if you guys have anything to say about that.
I mean, without getting into family stuff, I definitely agree. That was a big part of, my childhood as well. I didn't actually get that from this film. I will say that. I didn't really, to me, parents like regular humans, just, they're fallible. And this is something I actually would do. I would eat food that was just sitting there. There's no sign that says don't eat the food, so I'd be eating food because I do like food. So it's not really so much of that, but there's also other parts that I know I definitely see where you're coming from, that the parents are fallible. But I didn't think it was that prominent of a theme to me, but that's an interesting take, and I'll definitely, the next time I watch it, I will look out for that more.
I'd agree with you, Soul, that the part about parents being flawed doesn't feel like it is as strong of a theme, but there's very definitely, at least growing up in an emotional sense, that Chihiro in the car at the beginning of the movie would not have dealt well with the overgrown baby. not compared to what she does by the time it's over.
Right.
And the overgrown baby would not have stood up for beginning of the film Chihiro in the way that he did at the end.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of.
So I would, just to add to my point, you have the parents eating the food, fallible, but also the way that Yubaba deals with her child and how it's an unhealthy relationship in that case. And that's why
Let's come back to that part in spoilers.
Oh, we will. So, Soul, favorite
Yes.
and least favorite characters. That's your question. So what do you want to say?
Cool. Good. I was actually having trouble thinking of this after I said it. I was like, you know what? We got to have that question. I have had some trouble. And I think, just spur of the moment, I'm going to go favorite character. Maybe Ren. I'm going to go with Ren. We have someone who's, I won't go into spoilers, so we'll do the basics. Is that, her character is relatable, I think, to me, and it's interesting. And I like the theme of living at the bathhouse, and I won't go too much more. We'll go into spoilers later. But I think
Okay.
that's my favorite. And my least favorite, you're going to hate me, but it's the overgrown baby. I don't like him. I don't like him. Creepy. Creeped me out as a kid. Still creeps me out as an adult. So there. Okay.
I mean, he's
What do you
super
guys got?
annoying.
Yep, that too.
So I would say that Len is also my favorite character in the book, actually. But I also really like, okay, I'm going to say the name and it's going to be wrong. the bathhouse dude, Kamaji.
Maji, yeah. He's he's
I
he's
love
he's
him.
he's awesome. I love that dude. Yeah.
And I kind of want to watch this movie with Panda because she has a horrible fear of spiders. I just
We
wonder how
should
she'd react
definitely
to that
do that. That would
character.
be a great idea. But we can't
Red,
tell
the,
her. We gotta edit
Red,
this.
the reason I
Sorry,
was
gotta
laughing,
edit this part.
the reason I was laughing is that Kamaji is probably my favorite as well. I do tend to like some of that curmudgeon, especially if they've got a heart of gold kind of archetype.
Right. Yeah,
And
definitely.
he
Heart of
absolutely
gold.
is that in spades.
He is.
So my least favorite character, oh no, because I like those too.
You gotta have one. Come on. Give us a least favorite. Real quick. Right up
The
top of it.
radish spirit.
What? That dude's
He's not even a
cool.
character, really. Yubaba's a great character. I don't like her. I kind of like it all. I'm sorry. I don't have a least favorite character.
Alright.
If by least favorite you mean character I don't like. I like all the characters. I don't want to hang out with Yubaba, so we'll say her.
So, you can't even answer the question. Okay. We'll go to Jeff.
Well,
Okay, I think my least favorite would probably be Zeniba because she feels very much like a bit of a Deus Ex.
okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I could see that.
We're going to talk about them more anyway. So,
Yeah.
any other thoughts before we move on to the next question?
Not right now,
Which
I don't
is
think.
spoiler time.
Well,
So now, Henry?
I think, well, there was one other first, and I don't know if I'm the right one to do it. In fact, Soul, probably this one would fall to, is most likely to fall to
Okay.
you. Actually, it's where I really wish we had Huron Fan on tonight.
Yeah.
Because normally if we're doing a book, we'd do something about the author and about kind of how this book fits into the history of things. And this feels like a movie that deserves that same kind of a little spiel. But I know I have not seen enough Miyazaki to be able to do an introduction like that justice. So if either of you can, great, and otherwise, if either of you can, great, and otherwise we can just cut things.
What do you think? Can you handle that, Red? Or am I gonna have to wing it?
I've seen most of the ones that are in wide release.
I think I've seen all of them, but like one or two.
And I don't feel qualified to do an intro for this. I mean, here's what I will say. Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli changed Japanese animation and how it was received, and is something that's very unique and special. He knew how to take themes from fairy tales, both Western and Japanese, and integrate them in a way that nobody else has. Is that what you were looking for, Jeff?
It'll certainly work at least as an author intro. So yeah, just
It's
like I said,
Alright.
it's one of those things for which I feel like the film deserves at least a little bit of an intro beyond the summary we're about to give. Okay, spoiler time. Chihiro's family is moving to a new town, leaving friends behind. A shortcut leads to an abandoned train station. Or is it an abandoned theme park? And was it really a shortcut in the first place? Chihiro's parents find food and gorge. Chihiro, wary of the food, wanders away only to return to find her parents have turned into pigs. On the advice of the mysterious Haku, acolyte of Yubaba, she insists on getting a job after being taken into and hiding in the bathhouse that the theme park was hiding. Yubaba takes her name and gives her a job, and eventually the chance to rescue her parents.
Thank you, Jeff.
Good job.
Because I can't read out loud. To do. So we have other stuff to talk about.
Yes, we do.
What do you think about Chihiro's need to make her way in this new world that she's in? How do you feel about that? Soul? Jeff? Somebody?
Okay, then I think that her time spent in what, for lack of a better phrase, I'm going to just refer to very generically as the spirit world, ends up being some good prep for her as she makes it back, with just the lesson that moving is hard. It doesn't matter if you're moving in the same town, moving is hard. And it doesn't matter why you're moving, it's hard. And so I totally feel for that just pouty, despondent little 10, 11-year-old girl that we see at the beginning of the movie.
Personal experience that's relevant,
I feel
Jeff?
like that's leaking in a little bit, yeah. Just a tiny bit there. Jeff sounds like a guy who's moved at least once.
Actually, kind of ironically, the thing that's toward the top of my head right now is that my wife and I have been actively trying to hunt a place that come summer is going to be big enough for our combined family. And even granted that we're not leaving the town where I live, that one of the first places where we had looked at, and then there's a whole cut the mic story for later to go with. But
Right.
it had my youngest, who was about Chihiro's age, very much in sort of a freak out mode about things just like, even though she's not changing schools, how do I get to and how do I get to and from?
Right,
All of a
right.
sudden, it's going to be.
Yeah. No, it's true. What I like about this movie is that Chihiro has to figure out how to do things for herself. And she has to take risks and she makes mistakes and she has successes too. And that this is such an important thing about growing up, and it's something you can't do with your parents,
Mhm.
in the sense that your parents can't protect you from having to learn those things, and they can't give you that knowledge. You have to do it for yourself. You have to seize that knowledge for yourself.
Yep.
And that is one of the things about this movie that I love. And it also made me just a minute. It made me a braver parent because I let my kids walk to school. I let them go to the restaurant by themselves that was right across the street from our house because it helped me realize they have to learn this. And it's better that they learn it slowly in little increments than 18 kick them out of the house and they have to figure it all out. Like, that's not real.
No, although it happened to one of my sister's friends growing up. Her birthday.
Yeah, but that ends badly. Better small increments. What do you think, Soul?
I agree. That's how I kind of grew up myself. I'll say out of the three of us, I'm the only one who does not have kids, and I say I still maybe possibly act like a child on occasion, once in a while. No, like I wasn't kicked out of my house at 18. In fact, my parents were very generous in letting me step into the world, almost to where maybe a little more forceful, but it was still very good. And I definitely feel like that was a good process to where I could gain a lot more responsibility over time instead of being thrown into the deep end of a pool.
I think we're getting a little off the rails. I'm sorry, guys.
Just a little bit. So back
This
to
has turned into
Chihiro.
group
Um,
therapy.
Making her way in the world, I think Chihiro does a good job. First off, she gets a job. Very impressive. Great thing to see at 11 on the resume. Already working
Right?
for a bathhouse, making friends. She's got coworkers that will just stick their neck out for her. Real smart girl. I like that. Shows a lot of promise. She's a hard worker, like you said. Wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty with them stink monsters. So cool. Scrubbing sludgy bathtubs and gross nonsense and just working. Like she knew like she needed to be around and she needed to work and find a way to help her parents, and that was just a part of it. It wasn't like this end was in sight for her and she didn't give up. That was one of the things that I like, was that there's no, oh, you have to journey to this. So the 11-year-old's like, I can do that. I just got to get there. This one's like, you got to find a way to help your parents. And until then, you need a job. So it was just interesting to see that slightly different journey than most 11-year-olds in movies take.
Soul for the win, bringing it back on topic.
Trying. I'll bring
Well
it off
done, sir.
later.
So, what about the characters that help Chihiro along the way? We've already mentioned a few of them. So, I kind of want to talk about No Face a little bit. He has another name. I don't remember
Don't even.
what it is, but that's what I think of
Jeff,
him.
can you save us? Do you know No Face's real name?
Not offhand, no.
So, No Face comes into the bathhouse and steals tokens for Sen.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, she's Sen.
Yeah.
And this inadvertently helps her free the stink monster because she has all these tokens and she can just throw them at the bathtub for this poor monster. And then he proceeds to seduce No Face, not the stink monster, to seduce the entire bathhouse, but all he wants is Sen. So what do you guys think about that whole dynamic? It's kind of a weird thing going on. Do you know what I'm...
I still don't understand it. as an adult. So if any of you guys can give me some enlightening insight, I guess, into this, I don't know. Like to me, this is just a kooky character that shows up in these kinds of films. And I'm sure there's a hidden meaning. For me, it's just like, oh, sometimes, this happens. Like, I don't know.
I
Sen
mean,
or Chihiro.
I have some thoughts,
Okay.
but I
Then
don't know
lay
if
it
they're
on
the
us
right
because I would
ones.
like to have a different perspective, try and give that a shot. So go ahead.
So one of my thoughts is that No Face is offering an easy way out. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean,
He
certainly, because
Go ahead.
the gold is certainly an easy way out to most of the people who work in the bathhouse.
And she really doesn't have an easy way out of her situation. I also think that there's elements of adolescent girls and dealing with the male gaze, which is a phrase I really, really hate, but you start getting attention when you get boobs. It's just a thing. It's not something I had to worry about. I don't have boobs. But
Me
like
neither.
what?
Me neither. I'm just saying. I want to, make you feel more comfortable.
No, the reason why I'm uncomfortable with saying that is not because I'm uncomfortable with saying it. I'm more uncomfortable with how people might perceive what a lot of my other opinions would be about that. But it's just a reality. Going through adolescence as a girl, you start attracting male attention, and it's a thing to deal with. And I feel like that this is also what part of what No Face is doing
I
in the
mean, I can
story.
kind of see that. It's definitely a weirder look than like the Radish Man and these other frog kind of
The Radish
creatures
Man
and other
had
things.
boobs.
Well, I wasn't looking at the Radish Man, female gaze alert, but it's okay. No, I think No Face. Maybe that's one way to look at it. He definitely was eyeing Sen, I guess, or was constantly around. Even that first scene when they're crossing the bridge for the first time.
Yeah.
Um, I couldn't tell because I watched that scene a couple times. I tried to replay it. I couldn't tell if No Face originated from the bathhouse or was coming
No.
the same direction as them and came back and saw Sen and decided to follow. I was trying to see what was going on with that because I was just curious if there was like an origin, and that's that one scene. But I never really came to a conclusion.
Here's how I would say No Face struck me this time, which was No Face felt kind of like a spirit of hunger or greed,
Yeah.
very much the same way that kind of that same vice her parents had fallen victim to in those first about 7-10 minutes.
Yep. I agree.
And and the piece that kind of struck me in there as Sen or Chihiro kept sort of turning down everything he was trying to offer was that it was almost like it was a testing and passing.
I like
No, I
that.
agree. I think
I
that
think that makes sense because the entire movie, Chihiro doesn't really care about money. Like even when they were like Rin was like, "Hey, come on," or Lin, sorry, whatever. Was like, "Hey, come on, let's go down because No Face is here giving out a bunch of gold and everybody's there." She doesn't even care. She doesn't even flinch because she's like, that's not her goal. I don't know. I think that you're right. That's probably maybe a test.
so one of the nice things about this movie and fairy tales in general is that characters can have multiple meanings in them. So I agree with your guys' interpretations of No Face. I never thought about the whole male attention thing until I watched it this last time, probably my 10th time watching this. But the point is that you have archetypes that stand in for a whole bunch of things
Mhm.
in all these stories, which is what makes them a good story. Also, just characters that help other characters that help Sen along the way is this. I just love the Soot Spideys. They are just amazing. They're so much fun.
Another reason for
Uh,
Panda to watch.
Yeah, they're definitely cute.
that scene where she picks up the coal and she carries it and throws it into the furnace for the little Soot Spidey, and then all the other Soot Spideys start dropping them
And
Yeah.
just
to get her to
swarming
do
her.
it.
They're like, come on, you can help us out, right?
It's hilarious.
Uh,
And it just has the movie has just so many moments like that. The newt with Len, she gets
Mhm.
the roasted newt and gives it to the guy to get him to shove off. Any other characters that you want to talk about that help Len out? Or sorry, help Sen out? help Chihiro out.
No, I'm good on specifically like those broad characters like that.
Same.
No comments on Haku?
Yeah,
He's almost a MacGuffin.
yeah, in a way. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't have like
I can see that.
strong opinions for him or definitely against him either. But he's not a highlight for me.
Yeah, I think MacGuffin's probably a good word for him because he is a goal more than I mean, he has some characteristics, but he's a dragon. That's cool.
That is cool. You're right. And he gets beat up a little bit, but he keeps fighting, shows a lot of endurance.
Right.
Still has his goals, trying to find his need, and he's still fighting. A lot of perseverance.
So now we're going to talk about Chihiro-sen versus Bo, which is Yaba's big man-child that she has.
Boo,
How
Sen wins. Let's move to the next round. No, I'll let you go ahead. You go.
No. So this is one of the things that I think is a big thing, and I already addressed it earlier, is that Yubaba keeps her baby in a room locked up and terrified.
Terrified of germs. Yeah, that was
Terrified of
interesting.
everything.
It's like a little bubble boy, but like a bubble baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mel, and in fact, kind of the contrast that I would draw is to the extent that she is a child, Chihiro is largely a child by choice. Bo, on the other hand, isn't given the ability to grow up.
Right.
Whereas at least in that opening of the film, it is, granted, I'm not sure I know a 10 or 11-year-old who wouldn't have, but it is Chihiro's choice to sulk about moving. It is Chihiro's choice to whine about the big, scary, empty place. It's Chihiro's choice to do all of the things that she ends up doing.
But she gets a choice.
But
Whereas
she gets a
Bo
choice.
does not. Yeah. And that is what stands out to me the most about the dichotomy. Dichotomy? Is that how you say that word? Anyway, it's a word I read.
Yep.
But I don't think I've ever said it out loud.
Well, it is dichotomy.
It's one of those things that, like, adulting, in air quotes, is making choices. Yubaba is crippling her child by not letting him make choices. And, by the way, did you notice that when Bo gets turned into a mouse, that the little bird still carries him around? He doesn't even walk as a mouse
But
until
he
later
flies.
in the movie. What was that, Soul?
But like they're not always together though, even if the bird still carries him around. Like the mouse can be on his own. And even when they're like flying and falling through the air and stuff like that, the mouse will go and do its thing.
It doesn't do it until after they go to the house of Zeniba.
Yep.
He doesn't do any walking on his own until Zeniba.
Okay. I didn't pay that much attention to it, so I'll take your word for it.
I was taking notes. You were drinking beer.
I did have to rewatch most of the movie because of that, yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about Yubaba and Zeniba. So I realize that, Jeff, you don't like Zeniba, but contrast her with Yubaba. I can do it for you.
Okay, so very much the thing I don't like about Zeniba is that she feels very much like a solution that's kind of conjured up in order to provide Chihiro the ability to go solve the problem. So it's not
fair.
So then, in the strict literary sense, maybe having said a Deus Ex overstates it a little bit, but it also may be one of those pieces for which there is a cultural reference or familiarity that I just didn't have the background for, sort of with the contrast and pairing between the two of them. Whereas, especially with the part at the very end of the film, I get a very she vibe off of Yubaba.
Yeah, definitely. Very.
And so maybe even in spite of not liking Yubaba as an entity, maybe it's the familiarity of some of that kind of archetype that is why I find more interesting.
I'll tell you what my contrast is in a minute.
Tell me now, Red.
Okay. So what Zeniba does is she gives everyone a job to do. She even gives the baby, and that's why I was going back to The baby doesn't walk on his own until after he's in Zanaba's house, where he's forced to do a job. He's given something to do. He's given purpose. And by doing their job, they receive protection. So she gets a magic hair tie that she puts on her head, puts her hair in a ponytail, and she uses, I don't know, this might be a stretch. She uses the hair tie to see through the trick at the end of the film. It's like looking through
The Seeing Stone in Spiderwick is what I think you're trying to gesture.
Yes.
Oh.
So you look through the stone and the illusion it goes away. So that's my theory, which is probably way out there, but that's okay. But my point is that she is the person who says, you must work. You must stand up on your own 2 feet. And she saves her nephew. Plus, she's just nice. She has tea. Who doesn't want tea? I want tea.
Yubaba has tea.
Yeah, I
What do
like
you think,
tea.
Soul? What?
Tea?
What
No,
was that, Jeff?
tea.
I said
Tea.
Yubaba tea. I heard teeth.
Yes. No,
they both got
she
tea.
has tea. Who doesn't want tea?
I like
want
tea.
tea. It's your turn.
As far as what I think Zaniba is just that twin. They make like the contrast. Oh, here's the twin who's different. I think that definitely it's the catalyst, like you both mentioned, and gives them that push both for the baby and everybody else. Chihiro's, I wouldn't say stagnant because she's learning to grow up. She's working, she's trying to find a way, and Zaniba kind of provides more opportunity. So I think Jeff may have mentioned this. I don't know whether this was before we started recording or after we did, but similar to a Deus, like what God Machine Deus Machina, where she comes in at the end to kind of move the plot along a little bit, which is not exactly my favorite, but I will forgive it because the train scene's awesome.
Oh, the train scene is so great.
And it does, you do need a conclusion. So something else would have had to happen at the bathhouse to kind of get that going a little bit more if Zaniba wasn't it.
Jeff, ask your question.
Okay. So the one I'd kind of put in was, hey, you notice that Orpheus parallel at the end?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, you responded to
In
me.
fact, yeah, I actually asked Kieran if there was a Japanese equivalent because it made me think of both Orpheus and Lot's wife.
Yep.
So when you
didn't
say
know.
Orpheus, here's what, when you say Orpheus, I'm assuming you mean the guy from The Matrix, Lawrence Fishburne.
No.
No.
Well, kind of,
No?
actually. I mean,
Well,
Orpheus he was named after that character for sure.
That's
No,
all I got. You're gonna have to give me some. Yeah.
Okay,
give me some
Fishburne's well, first off, Fishburne's character in The Matrix is Morpheus with an M at the beginning.
Oh, I knew it sounded familiar. I was like, it's that guy, right? I was like, I haven't seen The Matrix in a while. I was like, I did not picture that connecting this movie, but okay.
No. Okay. So the short version, at least for what I was pointing out, is a story from the end of Orpheus's career. So Orpheus comes out of Greek myth. He was the greatest musician.
Let me interrupt real quick. Let
Sure.
me interrupt. I'm going to do it shorter. Orpheus goes into hell, retrieves his bride. He's told he cannot look back while
This is
she
Eurydice,
follows.
right?
Eurydice,
right?
yes.
What?
Okay, I
Yeah.
played Hades, and I was like, oh, this sounds
Okay.
familiar. Okay,
Right.
I remember that.
And
Okay.
he's told not to look back. He looks back. She goes back into hell. Everything is ended. Sin cannot look back. And the implication is if she does, her parents will go back to being pigs.
Okay, I could definitely see whether probably could be an influence. That mythology is really old, so that definitely could easily have been some kind of Japanese, I don't want to say retelling, but I'm sure they have some story that's similar to that.
It's not a retelling. It's more of a nod.
Just a theme, I guess.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
I'm not trying to say like it's a retelling of this or whatever, but I could see where that was definitely the intention. And also to not look back, just metaphorically speaking, as growing up as a part of this movie. Like you did your job, you did good, you got your parents. You don't have to worry about trying to see what maybe you missed. You accomplished your goal. You don't have to regret.
Anyway, I asked Kieran Fan if there was a Japanese myth that was similar, and he did not have an answer for me, unfortunately.
We're just gonna have to make one up and just say you said it.
Maybe Spirited Away is the Japanese myth. Okay, so here's the part where I curse at myself on the spreadsheet.
Here's where Dylan said my name. That's all right. I don't really care. I said it before.
No, I
have
think
a
everyone knows
question.
you're Dylan. I don't
Yeah,
know
I think
anybody
so.
who doesn't know your name.
I think so. I've accidentally done that in Cradle a few times. All right, so I want to know your favorite scenes, and then my final question, which I know you all have been anticipating. we'll get into after that. So I'll start us off. My favorite scene, I want to see if either of you guys have the same one, is when Sen, or at this point is still Chihiro, is in the village and the sun is setting. And that is just a fantastic scene. And I almost have to rewatch it each time because it's just so cool. The animation, the vibe, and just the flow of motion that these animators create for this entire scene as lights are coming on because it's getting darker as like the tension builds. That's my favorite scene. What about you guys?
So I think my favorite scene is the train scene, honestly. It's just so good. It's beautiful. And it has this cool aspect where she and No Face and the mouse and little bird, they're real and solid, but all the other people are ghosts. Kind of. And it
Yeah.
feels like she's basically parallel to the actual world and that somehow they're just touching each other. Kind of like Neverwhere. I don't know if you've read Neverwhere. And
Yes.
I love Neverwhere the book. I love Neverwhere the radio drama. Neverwhere the TV miniseries is absolutely execrable.
I've heard that. But it just has that feel where like the realities are just barely touching. And that's my favorite scene. Is her riding the train.
Okay, I like that. That's a good scene.
I think mine is going to be one of two. It's either the entire sequence in the boiler room where she actually starts to find her spine and is willing to just out stubborn the curmudgeon, or else it's the entire piece with what's really the river spirit, not the stink spirit.
Right.
But where she ends up looking past and seeing what was really going on and how to help.
Yeah, and she figures it out. Like nobody else knows what's going on. She figures it out all by herself. Yeah, that's a great scene too. There's a lot of good scenes in this movie. Just watch the movie, guys. It's really good. Kieran asks, how does this compare to Alice in Wonderland? I don't know. Have you guys read it?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Oh, maybe as a kid. You know what? Maybe in middle school I may have read it, but it's been so long.
Just think of the movie. I have an answer, by the way.
Mhm.
My answer is it compares in the sense that a little girl is transferred to a mysterious land. But the difference is Alice is trying to get home. In this story, Chihiro is trying to rescue her parents. It's a very different end goal. And also Alice just wanders around a bunch, whereas Chihiro has a very set world. She's in the bathhouse.
Yeah, that's the main location. There's no real like journeying outside the bathhouse. It takes place there.
Yes, there are similarities, but the thing I would identify as the biggest point of contrast is Alice doesn't really grow up.
No, she doesn't.
But the point of that story is also not for Alice to grow up. It's okay, here is this very odd dream.
Right.
And maybe a little of trying to make sense of the dream, but mostly just, here's this very odd dream.
Yeah. I mean, it has some fun wordplay. I really love Alice in Wonderland. It's a great book. It's not talking about the same things as this movie is talking about.
No, it's not.
If that makes sense. Right. I mean, they're not bad things. They're just different things.
Well, this actually kind of leads us into one of Huron Fan's other questions, because he's got the remark about Miyazaki has said a part of the inspiration for this film was the very bratty child of one of his colleagues. And so that Huron...
I don't even know how to address that one.
Well, Huron Fan sort of phrased his question as, do you think this has life lessons for children and adults?
We've already answered that question.
we have, but just it kind of very naturally leads into Alice's adventures in Wonderland, and even really through the looking glass and what Alice found there. In many ways, Lewis Carroll was poking fun at the way that so many school passages and rhymes that Victorian era children Alice's age, which is really younger than what Chihiro was. Or maybe is around, or maybe is right around the same age. But so many of them were things that were
younger.
But
I really do. I think she was 9.
I would say she always feels younger. But so many of the various rhymes and poems that get built in are very strictly satirizing the way that these passages that Victorian students would have to memorize and repeat back as part of school were also very didactic. And so Carol is very much skewering that idea about life lessons and stories for children.
And yet we just spent a whole almost
5
hour
minutes.
talking about life lessons.
Yeah.
Then
I think
I mean,
the whole movie
but
is
it-
a life lesson.
but
So
it's not.
here's what I would say.
But it's not didactic.
No, that's and so we will give you a chance to talk, I promise.
no, I
Um,
mean, I think it's go ahead. I know you're almost
so
finished.
Alice in Wonderland is very much Just So Stories. By the way, you should read Just So Stories by
Kipling.
blanking on the name. Kipling, thank you. Where this is complicated. Like I said, No Face isn't a bad guy, but he kind of is a bad guy. Yaba isn't a bad guy, but kind of is a bad guy. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of nuance to all the characters. So, thoughts?
Yeah, they feel real, and that's one of my favorite reasons I love pretty much all of the Ghibli films is that maybe I'm not in the mood for a specific one because some of them have different tones, and this isn't my favorite of the series, or sorry, not series, but all of the movies. But it's a really good one, and even if it's not the best movie for you, or maybe your mindset, or the lessons you want to learn right now as you're watching it, it's beautiful to watch and to listen to alone. So even as a kid, when I didn't really get much out of it, I was just like, "Oh, cool. Here's an animated movie, cool music, like the train, weird creatures." Sure. I wasn't even reading into anything at all. Like I was not a kid who took life lessons for anything. But I still liked the movie because it's something it's something extra you can take away from. I think that's with all of his films. So
Right.
that's my takeaway.
It was Stormrunner 1730. He said it was written for asked us about the Bratty Girl question, by the way. Sorry, Stormrunner. We messed up.
That
Um
I'll say that's funny because the
oh
remark
wait, no.
no, Stormrunner's
no,
question was about where we rank
I'm
it in
wrong.
terms of Ghibli films, which Soul actually just gave us a
It's my
beautiful
second.
segue to.
Yes,
Yes.
it's my second favorite.
Second favorite, I'm thinking this may be it's gonna be my third.
Okay. What was the one above it? Or the two above it?
Porco Rosso is number one.
I have
And I know
not
that
seen
one's
that
not
one.
the most popular pick, but it is just so good. So
I've
good.
never seen it,
All
unfortunately.
right, well, that's fine. You can look forward to it. That's a great thing to be able to look forward to.
Okay.
And what about you, Jeff? What do you think?
See, I don't know that I've seen enough to really be able to place it in. I've seen Spirited Away. At this point, maybe 3 times it's not more than 4. I've seen Ponyo a couple of times. I've seen My Neighbor Totoro once. And the only other one that I've seen, I've seen Kiki's Delivery Service and I've seen parts of, but I think not all of the adaptation of Howl's Moving Castle.
I actually, of all the Studio Ghibli movies I have seen, Howl's Moving Castle is my least favorite, despite the great Billy Crystal doing the voice of the demon in the fire. Like, I
Okay.
like that movie until the end, and then I just want to throw stuff through the screen at the end. So,
And as I said, I don't think I've seen all of it because I don't even remember hearing Michael Max's voice.
but he's in there, and he's great.
Yeah, he's pretty good. He's actually not that far into it, so
Yeah.
But
So I think that's all the questions, except for Red Army Ian. What are the metaphors? And I already answered him on Discord. So
yeah.
there are metaphors.
Sorry, Ian.
And they are many.
You're just gonna have to do your own podcast on these movies and talk about it there. And I'll listen.
I mean, he does have a podcast.
I know, and I kind of want him to do it. So this is the hint that I'd like the Cinnamon Seconds to do that.
So, thank you for listening to our discussion of Spirited Away. You can find us on the Legendarium's Discord. The invite link is on thelegendarium.com. We are also on Twitter at Green Team Pod and Reddit. Join us in supporting the Legendarium via Patreon. Thanks, Craig, for loaning us a little corner of your media empire, and for Horizon Brave for starting this all. Our music is Galactic Damages by Jingle Punks. Thank you to our panelist, Soulution. You're not going to say goodbye, Soulution?
Oh, yes. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for listening and to my awesome fan casting that didn't get cut. All right.
And Jeff.
TTFN. Ta-ta for now.
I'm Little Red Book. Until next time, bye.
But I have my fan casting. We're gonna.
You have
we can
what?
end it on that. Can we do that, Red? Can we end it in fan casting?
Fan
He threw-
casting. I don't even know what
he-
you're talking about.
Yes.
He threw a question
We're
in
gonna
for
do a-
us that I think I was going to loosely roll my eyes at and ignore. Of if this were to be done as a live action remake directed by
no.
M. Night Shyamalan.
No.
Yep. This is staying in. Here's what we got. All right. So
I'm going to give you the era treatment.
we got
Do you know
we
what the
got
era
Betty
treatment
White.
is?
Betty White. Oh, you
This
can't
is
say
where
the
I
word
tell
Betty
you to
White.
shut up.
No, that's all right. Jeff, look, Jeff's smiling. Okay, so Betty White. I got Chris Pratt because he's going to be playing Mario. So I think that's a fantastic fit. We
For
got
what
Christopher
character?
Walken because I'm going to gender swap Yubaba. And we're going to, for Alice in Wonderland, we're going Johnny Depp as the Zeniba. That's going to be the swap there. And I'm thinking, I need another one. Jack Black is going to play Lynn as well because he's Bowser.
Okay.
Or was he Donkey? He's Bowser.
So my
So-
cast list is Nicolas Cage plays all the characters. It's just Nicolas Cage all the way down. There
That's
you
fair.
go.
Okay. I like that one too. That's a solid casting. Jeff, you got anything? Maybe even just one really good hot take you want to see?
No, because I don't want to see M. Night Shyamalan do a version of this.
Oh, but you
I
want
want
to
to see
actually
M. Night
see it
Shyamalan
because
do a lot of things.
No, you specified that. And
You
so
did.
given that I
You
don't
did specify it.
given that that's not a thing I want to see, I can choose to not play.
okay, that's fair.
He's
Sounds
gonna
like my
take his ball
casting
and
wins.
go home.
Yeah, my casting wins with Reds coming in a hot close second. Let us know what you guys think.
I
want to see
I'm
some
like-
other fan casting results.
I can't get Nick Cage playing all the characters out of my head now. So thank you. I'm gonna have to go watch the movie again
You're
to
welcome.
get it out of my brain.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you have any other thoughts?
I say feel free to cut it in post.
No,
Perfect.
you can't do that.
She's
I'll
the
just
editor.
cut
She can do whatever she wants.
Straight. Uh-oh. I made the swears. It happens, I guess.
Yes, but that whole discussion will go away.